Rim Country Forum today being brought to you by Holiday Cruises and Tours, Choice Auto and Truck, Anytime Fitness, Damn Good Flooring, Hospitality Wireless, Sunshine Cleaning and Restoration, and the Dana Law Group. Well, good. Finally, Friday morning. It's 5 minutes past 9 o'clock. It's 55 degrees, and well, it's Friday, so you know, it's time for your hometown movie guys. Tina and Craig are with us. Andy can't be with us, a little under the weather, and sitting in for him today, we have none other than Stan Gardner, movie train aficionado, and ever so much more. So we got a whole bunch of good stuff coming up for you here on the Friday edition of Rim Country Forum, talking with the movie guys. First of all, thanks to all of you for being here.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Stan, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, been keeping you busy?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay out of trouble. I'm busy with the Toronto Natural Bridge friends.
Oh, right. We're getting ready for the big event going on.
Well, we're getting ready for a brunch at the bridge on April 26th.
Nice.
And that'll be available on our website. It's 9:30 to noon, $15, get you admission to the park, and a nice breakfast.
Wow. So, and you got someone catering that in, or?
Yes, Dwayne Riddle's doing it.
Oh,
He does
wow.
most of the charity stuff here in town.
Right.
And we have, scrambled eggs, sausage, and pancakes.
What a great place to go for a brunch. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
it's
fun.
I love going up to the Toronto Natural Bridge. Good place. If you haven't been there, get out from underneath that rock and go check it out. And when is that brunch coming up again?
April 26th.
All right, so you got a little bit of time to plan ahead, but check it out. And people can go online and get more information too?
Yes, yeah. Friends, Rim Country Friends of Tonto Natural Bridge State Park.
There you go. You can find it on, just Google it if nothing else. Now we got to talk about all the great things that are playing at the Sawmill Theaters, and I got a couple of new movies starting today to tell you about. We need to let you know, though, that tomorrow, first of all, is the first Saturday of the month. And so it's time for your Saturday morning classic at the Sawmill Theaters. And this month it's Sleepless in Seattle. I think that ought to be a fun one to watch. I'll have what she's having.
That's the other movie.
That's right.
That's very Met-Sally.
Yeah. But
Get your.
I'll still have what she's having.
Get your snarky scenes straight.
I gotta work on that. Well, Sleepless in Seattle, if you don't remember, it's a recently widowed man's son rather, calls a radio talk show in an attempt to find his father a partner. And this plays tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. You can get in for just $5. And every month you also give people a chance to vote on what you're going to see the following month, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so this Sleepless in Seattle, is this something you got a lot of requests for?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, we were looking at something kind of a springish.
Springy?
Springy-ish.
Spring is sprung, fall is Phil, summer's going to be here soon, it'll be hotter than usual.
You know, a little bit off topic on that, but Tom Hanks, of course, Sleepless in Seattle. In June, we've got one called Greyhound. It's a military movie back World War II, where these guys are, looks like they're crossing the Atlantic, heading from the States to England, and it's cargo ships and stuff, with the escort, but the Nazi wolf pack gets on them. And it's this kind of naval battle with submarines and stuff, and it looks really cool.
There's over in San Diego, moored right next to the Queen whatever it is ship.
Queen Mary.
Queen Mary. And I can't remember if it's a German U-boat or if it was a Soviet sub, but it was Second World War vintage, and I toured that. And, I don't think that would be the job for me. I got claustrophobia just walking from one end of that little tube to the other, and thinking about staying underwater, and it's just one big open room, and off in a corner there's a couple of toilets, and I'm just thinking you got to be real careful what everybody aboard that puppy's eating. I mean, it just wouldn't be any fun. And it's just a few of the things that passed through my mind when I was in there.
And somewhere else.
This one,
That's true too.
there's trailers for this one out there. It's called Greyhound. If you get a chance.
So
to
it's a
check
brand
it
new
out.
movie?
Yeah.
Oh, very
They
interesting.
said it looks really awesome.
And it's a Tom Hanks flick.
Tom Hanks.
Wow.
Yeah, always good.
Wait, I'm trying to think of, has there ever been a Tom Hanks movie that didn't do well? I'm trying to think of one.
It almost seems like there had to have been, but
But what would it be? I mean, that's, I can't.
Joe versus the volcano.
Oh, you know what, you're right.
Joe
You're
ver-
right.
Joe-
Joe versus the volcano, which I did see, and it was kind of lame.
I've never even
Stan,
heard of
Stan
that
is
one.
good, well, that's why.
Yeah, that might be
Yeah,
a reason.
no, but
then.
I mean, you're right, Stan, thank you, yeah.
Well, Stan, you've had a lot of experience with different movies, and I know you've always been the guy, grab the microphone over there, you've always been the guy that, you know, arranges all the train stuff and everything. Was there one particular out of the different, how many movies, first of all, have you been involved with?
I've been involved in over 300 productions of various types.
All right, so out of those 300, was there one that was just really a stinker? I mean, as far as...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would be at the top of the
What's
stinker?
your favorite
A
stinker?
movie with a really good cast, Josh Brolin,
Right,
Megan Fox, and John Malkovich.
right.
It was called Jonah Hex. Has absolutely zero social redeeming value.
But other than that, wow, I don't think I've ever heard of that one
I
either.
think Megan Fox gives it some value anyway.
Yes, there you
You
go.
know, it could be Mystery Science 3000, it would be fodder for that,
Oh, it
right?
probably
Is it-
would, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Brolin, I haven't seen him in a movie in a while, have we?
It's been a little while, yeah.
And didn't we first come to know him in Marcus Welby, MD, the TV show?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember.
I don't know.
He was, he's been doing some of the comic book stuff. You know, he was in Deadpool 2,
Oh, really?
he was Cable, and then in Avengers, he was Thanos.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So yeah, he had a couple roles last year.
Yeah.
Slightly different makeup than I'm used to seeing,
Jonah Hex was based on a comic book character.
right?
It's a post-Civil War bounty hunter.
Wow.
And,
And we all know so many stories like that.
oh yeah, and it was bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
It gives new meaning to the phrase dog, the
Yes.
bounty hunter.
Well, so, we, you know, we also have to ask the question again with your involvement with over 300 movies, and that was the worst. What was at the pinnacle of success?
There have been several.
Really?
I mean, yeah, some of them are really good. There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis, 2
Oh,
Academy
yeah.
Awards.
Yeah.
310 to Yuma,
I like that one a lot. That was a
and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Gotta
Oh,
love that.
yes.
And I worked on a film, oh gosh, 92, 93, Disney movie for kids called Iron Will. Story of dog sled racing, from Montreal, from Winnipeg to St. Paul, Minnesota
Oh, wow.
in 1917.
Wow.
Based on a true story. It's a really good little film.
Sounds like quite an adventure. Wow,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Awesome.
You were gonna
I
say?
feel kind of bad saying this, but I kind of like Jonah Hex.
Yep.
You've seen it?
Oh yeah, like 3 times.
Oh my gosh, and how
Boy.
dare you be a movie guy?
It's like,
I
it's like Craig just came out of the closet this morning.
Wow,
I kind of like these,
the
I
secret-
don't know, B movies are, I like B movies.
These are Q movies.
It wasn't that bad.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go watch it just so I can see how
It was-
bad it can be, I
I'll
guess.
bet you it showed up with Mystery Science 3000.
That
And
would
then
never-
they would make all the snarky comments, which I always think of after the fact.
Right.
I mean, I get it, it was kind of hokey, but
Craig likes hokey, that's his middle
that's,
name.
That's right. He's been doing the hokey pokey, but he's trying to turn himself around. Now, there's a couple of brand new movies that are starting today at the Sawmill Theaters. And the first is Onward. It's set to, this starts today, right?
yes.
Okay, and it's set in a suburban fantasy world. 2 teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there's still magic out there. It plays at 1, 4, and 7. The 4 o'clock showing is in 3D. And what do we know about this one so far, Craig?
You know what, well, Disney Pixar.
And there's another thing, I mean, has there been a Disney Pixar movie that wasn't stellar?
You know what, again, you know, there's been a couple that were,
Yeah.
you know, kind of so-so, but yeah, generally these things, if I'm not mistaken, they've all made 200 million or...
Wow. And they're not cheap to make. I mean, even though
No,
a lot of this is,
no,
you know,
no.
animation and stuff, there's a lot of technology that goes
Oh
into
yeah, no,
these things.
these things are usually up, you know, 150 million or so, and,
Wow.
you know, at least to make these. This one's getting good reviews. It's at a 61 on Metacritic. You know, Disney Pixar, they deliver.
Yeah, and it's rated PG, so good for the whole family. Again, plays at 1, 4, and 7. If you like to watch those movies in 3D, just check it out at 4 o'clock.
We got, the kids are going into spring break.
Spring break, yeah.
Off for the next couple of weeks, so
So
good timing on that.
if your kids aren't headed to Havasu or Puerto Penasco, take them to the movies. Now, I better yet, because of the scares of coronavirus, take them to the movies instead.
Ted, yes.
There you go. All right, I got the cue there.
Yeah.
All right, another movie starting today, and it's rated PG-13, is Fantasy Island. Mr. Rourke makes the secret dreams of his lucky guests come true at the luxurious resort, but the fantasies turn into nightmares. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, first, this is not, there's no tattoo and the plane.
No plane, no plane.
No, this is a horror film.
Okay, so this is not
no,
Ricardo
don't-
Montalban
do not-
talking about the
yes,
rich
no.
Corinthian leather, that's not happening?
Yeah, don't expect that, no, that's not gonna happen. It's PG-13.
Okay.
It's just kind of got terrible reviews.
But other than that, pretty good?
Other than being awful, it's supposed to be pretty good, yeah.
So it's not really a takeoff, I mean, just a kind of
Jonah
a,
Hex.
yeah, there you go. Just kind of a conceptual takeoff from the TV show.
Yeah, yes, yeah, it looks, I mean, a little bit of a, I don't really call it a comedy type thing, maybe some comedic elements to it, and mostly a horror film, but just kind of a quirky little spin-off.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so that starts
Not,
today.
not a takeoff, but a crash landing.
Not a takeoff and a crash landing, there you go. By the way, Don Klein back in the corner of the room. Don always videotapes our Friday Morning Movie Guys episode here. You can see it online by going to the Don Klein channel on YouTube. Now, normally he posts it up later the same day, maybe tomorrow before today's broadcast gets posted up there, but check it out. Again, just look for the Don Klein channel on YouTube. Now, we talked about the two new movies starting today, Onward and Fantasy Island, and of course the Saturday morning classic tomorrow, Sleepless in Seattle. But there's a bunch of other movies to see as well, and we're going to tell you about that. Also, I want you to start thinking now about not the scariest movie of all time, in your opinion, but the scariest movie you saw as a kid. Be thinking about that, because we want to find out from you what your thoughts are on that, and we'll get to all of that and more right after this.
Who are Rim Country's experts in cleaning
Blah,
carpet,
blah, blah, blah.
tile, upholstery,
The Tingler.
wood floors,
Yeah,
oriental
The
rugs,
Tingler?
heating and air conditioning
Vincent
ducts,
Price.
plus flood,
Wow.
fire
Oh.
restoration,
I remember Vincent
water
Price
treatment, mold
would
removal,
always
sun
scared me as a
cleaning,
kid, but I'm not sure if I've seen that
I don't
one.
know what it is.
I think
he's
what was the
old.
one in the Wax Museum?
Cheesy B movies.
Oh, there's that too, yeah.
That was one that I remember as a kid really
Think
freaked me
about it or
out.
anything.
With the Tingler, he was telling the audience and kids,
Making
to
Jonah
be
Hex
careful, there's one
turned into a
crawling
nightmare.
around on the floor.
No,
So it was-
they
it was-
shoot all kinds of
It
things
was
because,
first at the beginning.
South Beeline Highway.
and it
Auto Truck in Payson. Are you considering a newer vehicle?
They're
That's
just,
more
okay,
better
Lucia, are you
this
calling for
spring
Taco?
to upgrade with a quality pre-owned vehicle at Choice Auto and Truck.
Movies
We have
like
a
that
great
that are
selection
kinda,
on our website
not-
at choiceauto.com.
really no
And if you
basis in
don't see
reality
what
at all.
you're looking for,
Okay.
Oh, it has no basis in
Hey,
reality.
How much longer is Call of the Wild going to be
Choice Auto
showing?
Truck on
Oh,
Beeline
God, at least,
Highway,
2 more
next to
weeks.
Ace Hardware.
And he says
And
at least 2 more weeks.
See us on the web at choiceauto.com.
My pleasure, bye-bye.
Hi,
I didn't want to do that on the air.
Those are my least favorite questions
This material is
ever.
Right.
So, well, because you never, I mean, these things change quickly too, and it's,
Shelf flooring makes
so it's here now, I mean, it'll be here till
Let me give
Thursday.
you a different question. How much does a kernel of popcorn weigh? Work on that for a bit.
Oh, my word.
All right.
How many infants could dance on the head of a kernel of popcorn?
And remember, we don't just do a good job.
Months
We do
to
a
do
great
that.
Here we go. Welcome back to Rim Country Forum. We're at 18 minutes now past the hour, 55 degrees, looking for that high today of 65, and we'll tell you more about weather here coming up in about 12 minutes, so stick around for that. Meanwhile, this morning, we're talking to your hometown movie guys, Tina Craig, and filling in for Andy today, Stan Garner. And Stan Garner with involvement in over 300 movies, a bunch of interesting perspective we'll be getting from him today. Need to finish out, though, real quick, letting you know the other movies that are playing at Sawmill Theaters this week. One that is rated R, it's not a good one for the kids, obviously, but it got a stellar review in today's Payson Roundup, where if I remember correctly, Andy McKinney was saying it's a solid 2 hours of entertainment. Yeah, it's all about Cecilia suspects her abusive ex's death was a hoax and works to prove she is being hunted by someone nobody can see. It plays at 1:30, 4:30, and 7:30. Again, it's rated R. And Craig, as far as this one goes, how's the response been so far as far as people, coming up to the box office?
It's done okay.
Yeah.
It's done okay. You know, Payson usually doesn't respond real well to, you know, R-rated horror films.
Right?
You know, this one is yeah, it's billed as a horror movie. I don't think it's really quite fits into that genre. It's more of a suspense thriller.
Right, that
You know,
sounds interesting.
there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of thought going into this film too, and it's, you know, there's some metaphors here for domestic abuse that it kind of touches on and spins all into it. So it's I think it's at a 71 on Metacritic.
Right.
Got great reviews.
I haven't had a chance to read.
It's not just a mindless horror film,
Right, well, I like that idea of that.
which
I
Fantasy Island is.
just in case you were wondering, I haven't had a chance to read the whole review in today's roundup yet, but Tina, it looked like Andy thought that The Invisible Man was a pretty interesting flick. And it seems like you were talking just before the show today that you really liked it too.
Oh my God, though, I am all over it.
Really?
It is so good. And I've been telling everybody that they need to see it, and the response from people who have gone.
It's kind of an oxymoron to see. You need to see The Invisible Man, isn't it?
I'm
Sorry.
But it's absolutely beautifully constructed. Elizabeth Moss is wonderful.
Oh.
The music is so enhancing of the suspense. I'm gonna go see it again.
Really?
Yeah, it's that good.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, when it came to horror flicks and stuff like that, those are not your favorite movies to see. And but like Craig said, this is more of a suspense thriller rather than a horror type of thing.
You know, I like good movies, and whatever the genre, this is a good movie, and it's not gory.
Mhm.
It's not. I mean, there's there are scenes, but it is very Hitchcockian,
Oh, okay.
and it just.
So large, heavyweight old men trying to pick up on young movie stars? Or?
Yeah, she's blonde.
Oh,
You know, and
okay.
Hitchcock had a thing for blondes, so
Yes, I'm
yeah.
personal friends with Tippi Hedren. I've
Oh,
heard a lot
yeah.
of interesting
Oh,
stories.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the end of her career.
Yeah, but you know, out there, I mean, if you like a good, an adult film, and I mean adult not in the, you know, the other way, but it's something for grown-ups that is thought-provoking, visually exquisite, and constructed very, very well. Just, and again, see Elizabeth Moss. I first came to my attention in Mad Men. And
Wow.
she was great. Yeah, she played Peggy in Mad Men.
Wow, well, thank you for that 50 Shades of Tina. And what, you know, when it comes to horror movies, Stan, you know, with 300 movies, at least one of these movies had to have something to do with some kind of horror element. Anything come to mind?
Nothing that's memorable.
Yeah, okay. You know, I'm trying to think, I don't know of any, you know, haunted train movies that come to mind when I think of anything like
Did
that.
a version of Strangers on a Train
Oh,
with Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal called Throw Mama from the Train.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Got a neighbor that sounds just like her. No mama from the train, yeah. Anyway, you know, speaking of trains, just a weird side note that while Stan's here, I got to share. I had a unique opportunity back after the December 2004 tsunami to fly into Hyderabad, India, and then hop on a 9-hour train ride out to Bhimavaram, which is, as everyone knows, just south of Vishakhapatnam. And it's you get on at 9 o'clock in the evening, and you get in on the other end at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I thought, well, being the smart guy that I am, I would get a sleeper car, and it's like bunks with little curtains on them, and that's it. And about every 5 minutes, somebody's walking down the aisle, opening up the curtain to see what you're doing. And in between all of that, there's cockroaches crawling across your head, and there's rats all over the place. It was just not my idea of this, you know, the scenic train ride that I had hoped to take.
Not a classic Pullman.
No, but a typical India moment, I think. But anyway, a little on the icky side.
The Midnight Meat Train.
Midnight Meat Train?
Yes, yeah, it's a Bradley Cooper film.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was not too
It was
bad.
good. It was
Midnight
good.
Meat Train.
It was
This
good.
is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of actually it turned out to be kind of a weird little.
Supernatural.
Yeah, sort of
Yeah.
a vampire movie, I guess.
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just- And you know what, really?
Kinda hard to explain, yeah.
The movie could be titled, like Stan's movie, There Will Be Blood, because there was blood.
One of those.
And I liked it, so, you know, go figure.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, anyway, that's playing, The Invisible Man is playing at 1:30, 4:30, and 7:30. That is rated R, though. Now, The Call of the Wild also playing. Now, this one's rated PG, so it's good for the whole family. Based on the Jack London 1903 novel, The Call of the Wild, a sled dog struggles for survival in the Alaskan wild. Again, rated PG. It plays at 1:15, 4:15, and 7:15. And has this been doing pretty good for you, Craig?
Yes, it has. Actually, it's done great up here.
Mhm.
This is one the critics weren't real kind to, and nationally it has not really taken off, but it's done great up here in Payson.
Well, I think even Andy seemed to like this movie, if I remember correctly.
I don't think anyone has said they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Everyone up here's
I
enjoyed
guess I
it.
shouldn't have prefaced it that way. Even Andy liked it.
Oh, he's
Sorry, Andy, if you're listening.
it's easy to please.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess the only complaint about it is, it's a toned down version. The book was, well, it's, survival in Alaska, and that's kind of brutal, and they took that part out. The brutal
Right.
part's gone. So
Like,
it's also good for kids too. It is, like I said, PG
So
and
rated PG, so you're not gonna freak the
kind of
kids
like a
out.
family version
Yeah.
of Call of the Wild.
Yeah. And another one, Sonic the Hedgehog, and a cop in the rural town of Green Hills will help Sonic escape the government who is looking to capture him. It's rated PG, plays at 1, 4, and 7. It's based off of a video game. And has this been doing pretty good?
It has.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did really good. Again, PG version.
So it's done
Good
good
for
here
a kid.
locally, but is it done nationally?
Actually did good nationally too.
Wow.
Yeah, this one was #1 for 2 weeks, I think. #1 in the country.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, it was. I think everyone was a little surprised by that one, but
Well, and
This is good.
the next question that we have is, has Doolittle done much?
Doolittle's gone.
Doolittle's gone. Oh, Doolittle's
Yeah,
no longer
yeah.
here.
Doolittle's gone. Yeah,
I'm looking at apparently last week's thing here or something. And Birds of Prey,
Birds of Prey hanging in there.
is that right?
Yeah, this will actually be the last week for Birds of Prey though.
And
it's-
that's where Harley Quinn joins superheroes Black Canary, Huntress, and Rennie Montoya to save a young girl from an evil crime lord. That's rated R. It plays at 1:15, 4:15, and 7:15.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be a little disappointed with that one.
Really?
Didn't really take off.
Yeah, locally as well.
No, it's just it's kind of a spin-off of the Joker and Batman films, and
Right.
I don't know, this one just never really caught on.
Right, interesting. All right, so those are, you can always find out what's playing and what time it's playing and stuff like that by just logging on online at sawmilltheaters.com, or you can call 928-595-0876 and find out more there. And always a lot of good things playing at the Sawmill Theaters. One of the things we wanted to just revisit real quick is last weekend you had that showing of The Sons of Iwo Jima, and it was a big fundraiser for local veterans, and you got quite a few people in for that, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, we ended up opening up 3 theaters.
Right,
It was really neat.
outstanding.
They set up the honor road out there.
And you had some first responders there and everything?
Yes, yeah, we had police and fire there, and then
Nice.
we had 4 Marines in full dress opening the doors for people as they came in. It
Oh,
was
cool.
it was pretty neat.
That would be very cool. And you had people coming up from the valley for that event.
Yeah, I don't know if the people got up here from the valley or not.
Really?
We were thinking they were, but yeah, no, it was a great turnout, and
We filled
of course,
three theaters just right here out of Payson.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
of
astounding.
course, that was all for local veterans and
Right.
So yeah, good stuff.
Great cause. And Stan, you were there for that too, weren't you?
I was there for that. I was there when it originally showed,
Was that was back a couple of years.
1950.
1950, wow.
Yeah, that movie was really commissioned by the Marine Corps to tell the story of Tarawa and Iwo Jima, and it contains a tremendous amount of original combat footage.
Wow, that right there makes it extra special.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. I teared up. I mean, it was beautiful.
Well, and speaking of this, really trying to share the actual story, even using some of the original footage. I know that I doubt that there was any original footage used in Midway, but as I was mentioning last week, because I got to say it again, I watched a movie, and I was.
Send up the flags.
I instantly found myself in agreement with all of you from a few weeks earlier, saying that everybody should take their youngsters, all the younger generation to see that, just to put into perspective the amazing prices that have been paid for the freedom that we far too often take for granted. I thought that movie was outstanding.
Yeah, another movie I worked on dealing with the same subject was Flags of Our Fathers by Clint Eastwood.
Really? Wow.
We did some train scenes in that,
Right.
and that was intense. That was a really intense film. We did one scene with Ira Hayes and
Wow.
John Bradley in the vestibule of a railroad car, having this tremendously emotional conversation about how mixed their emotions were about being in the States and being alive instead of being in combat and being dead.
Right.
And that scene went on for probably a minute and a half. It was a long scene.
Right.
They gave a tremendous performance, and when it was over, Clint Eastwood said, check the gate, which means make sure the film went through the sprockets.
Right.
Gate was good, moving on. One take.
One take.
He knew he would never get that much emotion again.
Yeah, wow. He's a tremendous director that way, definitely knows his stuff. So when we have to take another quick break here, get you caught up on today's Rim Country weather forecast. And when we come back, I'm going to ask our three movie aficionados here what their scariest movie from their childhood and watching movies, back in the day, what was the one that really, as a kid, got you going? And we want you to be thinking about that as well, and think about giving us a call at 474-2427. Let us know, what was the scariest movie you saw as a kid?
Your will, living trust, or power of attorney documents should be in place.
You know, I mentioned The Tingler.
Good movie for you to show again.
The problem was that it didn't scare me. It scared everybody else in the theater. It didn't scare me. I'm just a little too hard-headed, I think.
Letters from Evil.
All
Yeah,
areas
right.
of estate planning and take pride in helping families
Good morning,
and
be with you in just a
prepare
moment.
these vital documents. Protect
You know
your
that-
family's future now. Free
that
initial
movie too, you have to
consultation.
start over
Call
there.
the Dana Law
How these
Group
guys
at
just went from
928
Guadalcanal,
445
and then they
4440. That's
reset them and then send them into another one.
4440.
Yeah.
Go
Wow,
online
that's-
to DanaLawGroup.com. Your
Can you
KMOG
imagine
country
going through
weather
something like that,
forecast for
survive,
this
and then
March
Yeah, like,
6th.
oh, by the way.
Do it again,
Sunny
yeah, do it again.
and windy
That's-
today. Winds gusting around
Yeah.
20 miles an hour with Payson's high expected to be near 65.
Coffee.
Up on top of the rim, they're expecting a high near 56. And
All right.
our neighbors to the south in Tano
I
Basin.
have no idea what I'm
Chris
saying.
Medley,
Cool,
Your
like
high on
little
this Friday,
breeze up.
77
Beautiful.
degrees.
Firesign Theater.
Well, it looks like more sunny and windy conditions tomorrow. But then we have two different storm systems headed our way. We'll tell you all about that in our 7-day
5 seconds.
forecast coming up, right here on your information station, KMOG.
31 minutes past the hour, 29 in front of 10 o'clock, 55 degrees. And this morning on Rim Country Forum, talking with our hometown movie guys. Today we have movie aficionado Stan Garner filling in for Andy, who can't be with us. So Craig and Tina are here. And asking the question, what's the scariest movie you ever saw as a kid? Now, Don Klein, who's videotaping us right now back in the corner here, the first thing that came to his mind was a Vincent Price movie called The Tingler. And I remember as a kid, Vincent Price pretty much freaked me out. There was one, I can't remember for sure the title, and maybe one of you knows, it was about a wax museum.
The Wax Museum.
It was called the Wax Museum. Wow, that's creative.
Yeah.
But I remember as a kid, that one, that was one that I thought was kind of freaky. Stan, as a kid, a movie that really got you?
Another Vincent Price. It was one of the Edgar Allan Poe stories.
Oh, yeah.
The Raven.
Was it The Raven or?
No, it's one with the pendulum.
Oh, The Pit and the Pendulum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pendulum.
Vincent Price was
Yeah.
in that. Yeah, I remember that.
That was a scary movie.
That was, that was.
Yeah, and he was in, a lot of Vincent Price. There's The Raven, and, Edgar Allan Poe was,
Troubled.
to say the least.
You think?
Yeah.
A lot of fun at parties.
No, he married his 13-year-old cousin, just, a little snippet of
Keeping it in the
creepy.
family. Huh?
Yeah, really. No, he was a creepy guy.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, we got a caller on the line, 27 minutes in front of the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hi. Frankenstein.
Oh,
Now,
Boris Karloff?
was it
Is
the
that
one? What?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, and that goes back a few years.
Oh, yeah.
Boris Karloff.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was it as a kid? What was it about that one that freaked you out the most? Freaked out is a technical term we use here on Fridays.
Yeah. Right.
Hugged that one too hard. He hugged that one too hard, huh? Wow, interesting.
That's a good
I hadn't
choice.
thought, I forgot all about that. Frankenstein's Boris Karloff. That
Yeah.
had, I mean, any we're talking 40s or 50s?
It's probably
I want to say
40s,
like 35.
Oh, really?
maybe
I don't know why
so.
that's in my head, but.
Tina's on that right
You
now.
want a piece of trivia?
Okay,
Yeah,
Gene Wilder's Young Frankenstein,
right?
they used the original set, the original lab set for that movie.
Really?
Wow.
The guy that made it had kept it all those years.
It was 1931, so that's a long
31.
time.
1931.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was alive again. Anyway,
Yes.
So,
interesting. Wow.
Side note, that's one of the most collectible posters, movie posters out there.
Frankenstein?
The original Frankenstein posters, they're up 200,000
For a
Oh,
poster?
for a poster. And
wow.
I knew I shouldn't have thrown that away.
Yeah.
Back to the
those
phones.
Superman comics.
There you go. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hi there. I have not been able to even look at green pea soup since that movie. That was, and it still is scary. I mean, for those of us that believe that kind of thing does exist, that was a pretty well done movie, even though that was what, in the early.
1979.
I was in '79. I was thinking.
Oh,
it was
I'm sorry, my bad, 73.
Okay, that makes more sense.
1973.
73, yeah.
Right.
And the gal's name is, it's right at the tip of my frontal
Oh,
lobe.
Linda Blair.
goodness, Linda Blair.
Linda Blair, that's
And it
right.
was directed by the great William Friedkin,
Wow.
who did a lot of, he did The French Connection.
Right. And caller, what was it about that? Is there one particular thing about that movie that really got to you? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sales at the concession stand tanked on that movie. Anyway, thanks for the input, appreciate it. 474-2427, our number to call if you can share with us, what was the scariest movie that you saw as
How
a kid?
about Bates Motel?
What was that, the Bates Motel?
Yes.
Psycho.
Oh.
Psycho, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Psycho was a,
Psycho.
that was a
Yeah,
psychotic movie.
dang,
Is it, people thought it may never be safe to take a shower again,
yeah.
or something like, maybe
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Jaws, I can't remember. Anyway, 23 and a half now in front of the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum, good morning. Phantasm.
Oh.
Now, I'm trying to remember, who all was in Phantasm?
Ah.
You sound pretty shocked still.
Doesn't matter.
What about the movie really got to you, caller?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're-
that was 1979 too, so,
Wow.
yeah.
Phantasm, I don't think
Yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
That's
It's
interesting.
from that spear too, right? The little ball flying around with the blade sticking out the front of it. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Phantasm, I'll have to check that one out. Now, what about you, Craig, as a kid? Is there one particular movie that stands out as the one that freaked you out as a kid?
Two actually. You just said one, Jaws.
Oh, Jaws, yeah.
That one, yeah. I
Dun, dun, dun,
I
dun.
didn't even want to go swimming in my pool at night. It was,
Right.
I was freaked out by that one. But the other one, Lon Chaney, the Wolfman.
Oh, The Wolfman, that was a good one.
Ooh.
Yeah, that
And,
was.
yeah.
I was 5 years old. I think I saw that.
And in the same, that same era, another one that as a kid really kind of, I don't know that it necessarily freaked me out, but I found it to be a spooky one, was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was another one from, I think, roughly about that same era, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, that was, oh, dang it, his name, he was in Mutiny on the Bounty. Charles Lawton.
Charles Lawton?
Charles Lawton played the Hunchback.
Really?
Yeah, now that could have been an earlier one, but remember, I am.
Quasimodo, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and he was a Quasimodo, not a real moto. He was a. Yes.
Oh, just a Quasimodo.
Yeah, just a Quasimodo.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. That was a scary movie. That was and a poignant movie
Mhm.
because he was, a deformed person who was abused, and in love with Esmeralda, who was this gorgeous woman who was seeking sanctuary from the mob, the French mob. And that's originally a Victor Hugo story.
How long ago was that? I mean, that one goes back quite a few years as well.
Well, the Charles Lawton one, I think, was in the 30s.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
If he was Quasimodo, who was the real Modo?
That's,
really.
that's the English teacher joke, right?
So, and Tina, I mean, other movies that as a kid really got to you?
Oh, yes. Horror of Dracula. Okay.
The horror of Dracula.
Well, yes, it was the horror because it was Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and we were living in Jamaica at the time, and I saw this in an old theater, and it was so scary. Christopher Lee was one of the best Draculas, I think. And there's a lot of different Draculas. There's Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski in 1979, and then the original one, which was the silent one, was Max Schreck. But they're scary, and if you see Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski, it doesn't look anything like the Count of Dracula, who's elegant, urbane, and deadly. Nosferatu is almost like a rat, and I had tremors after that one.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, big time.
Interesting. And I'm thinking of, I've mentioned it here before, but it had a big impact. I mean, one of my brothers and his girlfriend took me to a movie, and it was Willard. And I was fairly young at the time, and I remember that was like, I did not go home with a warm, fuzzy, comfortable feeling. But I'm glad I saw it, but that was, as a kid, that one kind of freaked me out a bit.
Yeah, and people forget. I mean, again, growing up in the tropics, we have rats the size of Buicks.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I've seen some in India that were really the size of what we see as house cats here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that was, man, they're eating something good.
Oh, yeah.
Or something anyway.
Yeah.
One other one real quick before we take another call here that I think a lot of people can relate to, and I'm talking back in my very early years, and I think all of us, regardless of your age, can say the same thing. The Wizard of Oz. The flying monkeys absolutely freaked me out as a kid. I mean, I would almost, want to leave the room when the flying monkeys were doing their thing.
Yeah. That's really interesting you should mention that, because I remember having recurring dreams, nightmares, after seeing that, of the flying monkeys and waking up screaming.
Right.
My parents would come in, yeah, no, they're gonna give me the flying.
It's a Democratic convention. No, sorry. 18 minutes in front of 10 o'clock. Back to the phones. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. The House on Haunted Hill. Who was in that, caller? Oh, Vincent Price.
Yes.
The House on Haunted Hill.
It was, yes.
What was it about that one that got to you as a kid? Yeah, that would do it,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Wow, The House on Haunted Hill, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure I've seen that one either, but that would be interesting. Thanks for the call, appreciate it very much. Let's take a few more here at 474-2427. Just asking the question, what was the one movie that as a kid really got to you, really scared you, really freaked you out, whatever the terminology you like to use is? Give us a ring, 474-2427, our number to call. Any other movies coming to your mind, Tina?
Yes. Night of the Living Dead by George Romero, and that was in 1968, so I was not a kid, but I felt like a kid when I was in there. And if you remember, that was a black and white movie, and it had the total quality of just this nightmare that you couldn't get out of. And I saw it at Franklin and Marshall College. They had a special showing of it, and I remember everybody is just silent, and then those of you who are old enough to remember that commercial, somebody pipes up, "I can't believe I ate the whole thing."
Where's the beef? 17 in front of 10
It
o'clock.
was so good. I mean, really scary. And, spoiler, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, if you haven't seen it, cover your ears, but the fact that he just gets killed right at the end. I mean, he dies. And, you're not expecting that. It was a really good finale.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's take another call. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Thanks for calling. Abbott, which movie Abbott and Costello were in, which one? Oh, Meets
Oh, yeah,
Frankenstein.
Meets Frankenstein, yeah.
But even though that had to have a humorous slant to it, it still kind of freaked you out a little bit? I tell you, that takes me back a few years. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Craig?
The Blob.
The Blob.
Steve McQueen,
Yeah.
yeah.
That goes back, that was 60s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Late 50s?
Late 50s, yeah, that was his first that was his breakout movie.
What was that one movie? I mean, I wasn't necessarily a kid, but I remember it seemed, they pulled off on the very first one, they pulled off something that kind of seemed almost plausible. It had the huge worms that, would come up and eat you, eat a house, eat a car. I can't remember what the heck the name of it was.
Oh, Tremors.
The Tremors, yeah.
Yeah,
Tremors. That was
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
excellent choice.
We always have to have at least
Yeah.
one reference to
True.
Kevin Bacon so we can keep our 6 degrees running, right?
Yeah,
Reboot.
right, exactly.
That's when they did, I think they went to Tremors 5 on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they shouldn't have done, but.
Yeah. Yeah, if
The first one
4
was
isn't
good.
enough.
Yeah, the first one was good.
Yeah.
Very interesting. One more quick call here before we take a break. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hi. Oh, yeah. And with up on top of the Empire State Building, hanging on to the voluptuous blonde and all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
It was actually filmed up there?
Well, there was an original and then there was a remake by John Carpenter. We have to really talk about John Carpenter for the scary movies.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's the master.
So I guess you're saying John Carpenter nailed it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't get
Now, there was a remake of that one with Kurt Russell.
Oh,
And
great movie.
yeah, oh my goodness, what a scary movie. Yeah, and I was even writing down a John Carpenter movie called They Live. And if you haven't seen They Live, everybody listening to us needs to find that movie and watch it because it is more current than ever.
They Live.
Yes, with Roddy Piper, who was the WWF champion, unfortunately passed away recently, but it's an absolutely amazing movie. Yeah, They Live. And John Carpenter, anything by John Carpenter. Escape from New York, Escape from LA, Escape from
Alien.
Houston. I'm sorry?
Aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
We're going to take an escape
Yeah.
from the hometown movie guys here for just a moment, and we've got a couple messages to share with you, and we'll be back with more on Rim Country Forum. What do you think? What was the scariest movie you ever saw as a kid, and why? Give us a ring, 474-2427. What, Tina?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, there's another one.
Boy, that scared the bejabbers out of me.
And,
Yeah.
it takes quite a bit to
Both
scare
of them.
bejabbers out of people, so.
Not out of me.
Okay, all right. She's full of bejabbers, or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to take a quick
I
break.
have
We'll be back with
bejabbers.
more on Rim Country Forum right after this.
Yeah.
I worked on a comedy horror
Oh, yeah?
That is-
film here in Arizona called Stay Tuned.
Stay tuned.
Kick-ass and cheap over.
John Ritter, Ted Daughter, and Jeffrey Combs.
Wow.
And we filmed in Old
Ritter and
Tucson.
Daughter, weren't they?
24 hours a day.
They were together in some other.
They were in that movie, that TV show, Three's Company.
Three's Company, that's right.
And, but, we filmed the train scene on the Copper Basin Railway out of Florence,
Oh, wow.
and drove a steam engine through a buckboard full of dynamite.
Well, that'd be fun.
Oh, it was fun. Oh, yeah.
I think that would just be a kick.
I'll bring you a picture of it.
I'd like to see that, that'd be fun.
I thought the funniest horror movie I ever saw was The Raven. I was just totally cracked up about that movie. So later as an adult, I went back to see it and it was lame.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're easily pleased as children.
If you want to call me about the UFO phone,
Okay, I will do that, thank you.
you can send a text if you want.
Okay. All right, here we go in 25 seconds. Okay.
Guaranteeing our service for reliability, speed, and quality. All the good I tell
We
you.
need to talk about Invasion of the Body
What's that?
Snatchers. We need to talk about it because it's not only scary, it was politically a
What movie?
statement, Invasion of the Body
Okay.
Snatchers.
Or shoot
Yeah.
a text to 928
Both versions.
2065 to find out more. Hospitality Wireless.
11 minutes in front of 10 o'clock, 55 degrees, and And real quick before we take our next caller, just before the break there, Tina, you were talking about the invasion of the body snatchers.
Well, there are two, and both of them are fabulous.
Really?
The original one was 1956 with Kevin McCarthy, and it was made as a commentary on communism.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was to show that, you know, if you give up your individuality, if you give up your individual freedom and your, you know, individual choices, you become part of, you know, like as they said in Star Trek, the Borg. And it was, you know, the pod people, if you'll remember, these people look just like humans, but they are aliens who assume this persona because they invade the body of the person, of the human person, and then the body of the human person has to be killed. And the pod people are all of one mind. They are automatons. It's one of the scariest movies I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
And then they remade it with Donald Sutherland. And that was, if anything, even scarier. And Kevin McCarthy, interestingly enough, had a little cameo in that one.
Oh, really?
Donald Sutherland's driving down, and they made it in San Francisco. And they made it to look really scary, which apparently now it is really scary.
Yeah, I was gonna say, San
And
Francisco has
stinky.
become that way,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. But Donald Sutherland's driving down the street, he's knowing that there's something weird going on. And Kevin McCarthy comes running up, screaming and, splat against the windshield. They're coming, and then somebody pulls him away. And he's the original star of the '56 version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we should.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Craig, we need to get those. We need to get They Live and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, part 1 and part 2.
See if we can get them to, get everyone to buy into it.
There you go. So,
Really, we have to twist their arms.
so
Yeah.
if nothing else, maybe next October for Halloween.
Ooh.
All right, 10 minutes in front of the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Sorry to make you wait. Hi.
Oh.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah.
That
I
one,
think that was just scary.
that
Yeah.
was a
Jack Nicholson is scary.
well, and
Yeah.
but I don't know that you can pull off that type of acting caliber without being unique. Boy, I got a future in politics with this dancing around what I really want to say. But I mean, he really pulled that off in a
Yeah.
very authentically spooky way.
Right.
The music,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that theme song was,
And the closing shot of him out in the snow was
Yeah.
kind of cool too.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody chilling.
Yeah.
If anyone watches South Park, they did a spin-off on that one. It was
Really?
where they bought a Blockbuster, and it right there at the end of that whole thing, and at the end of it, he was frozen.
Had to be there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Right.
Hey, thanks for the call. That was The Shining was a really, and that's a Stephen King movie, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's not too much that he's done that wasn't really spooky. Another guy that would be almost fascinating to sit down and over a couple of cocktails and just try and see if you couldn't find out a little bit more about where his motivation comes from, because you'd almost think he's got to be a pretty creepy dude.
It was in that Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, that was a strange one. Now, real quick before we take another caller, during the last break, Stan, you mentioned that you worked on yet another horror movie of sorts, a train movie right here in Arizona.
That's correct, yeah. It's called Stay Tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
In 1992, John Ritter, last film he ever worked on,
Yeah.
Right.
Pam Dauber and Jeffrey Jones. And the story, it's treated like a comic book. It's a story of a family that buys a new satellite dish. This is 92, and satellite dishes are kind of new.
Right.
And it's possessed by the devil, and Jeffrey Jones is the devil.
Oh,
And
Jeffrey
he's,
Jones is really scary.
and he more ways than one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I heard that.
he sucks these people into an alternative lifestyle where they're a Mickey Mouse or a Tom and Jerry cartoon, or they're in a Western thing, and
Oh, yeah.
all these different scenarios. And the problem with the movie is it has too many subplots and you can't follow it.
Right.
But we did a scene with a steam train on the Copper Basin Railway at Florence, where we drove the train through a buckboard loaded with dynamite, and Pam Dauber and John Ritter were strapped to the buckboard.
Right.
It was the devil was going to kill them.
Wow, that had to be kind of an exciting, just from a technical standpoint, an
Wow.
exciting thing for you to work on.
It was, yeah. I mean, we had there were 20 barrels. Each barrel had a 2-ounce black powder charge and about 5 pounds of naphthalene. That's what mothballs are made out of.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Turns out it is exceedingly flammable.
Huh.
And the fireball went about 80 feet in the air.
Wow.
And it was a big explosion.
Wow.
And so in real life, I'm sure that there was no one strapped to the front of that train.
Not when we actually hit it, no.
But that had to leave a mark. When it comes to, I mean, like an engine, a railroad engine like that, I mean, you would think that going through something like that would cause quite a bit of damage, and that'd be an expensive stunt that you don't want to do twice.
No, actually, using the naphthalene, it gives you a fireball, but there's no concussive effect.
Oh, okay.
And so it's visually it's dramatic.
So everybody loses their eyebrows, but no one gets hurt.
Right, yeah, and we put Lexan over the cab windows and had some protection for the crew. Had them covered with wet blankets.
Right?
And
I've had some of those at some parties I've filmed.
and I mean we're off fine.
Mhm.
And we checked on the safety of the crew after the shot was over. But
Again, I bet there's a lot that goes into just making sure that you don't have to do a retake.
yes, there is.
Yeah, a lot of math there.
Yep.
Gotta love it. 5 minutes, and go ahead.
I was gonna say, Pam Dollar, is that a Greatest American Hero? Is that the one she starred in? That name just clicked in my brain.
She was in that Three's Company TV show.
Was it Three's Company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the same Ritter, the same
John
actor.
Ritter, yeah.
And
He was
whoever the other
great.
I'm having a hard time
Yeah,
pulling all that
I-
back from my memory.
It was only 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not a kid, not a childhood one, but one of the scariest movies I've ever seen was called The Devil's Advocate.
Oh, yes.
With Keanu Reeves. And Jeffrey Jones was in that, and he was, that's what you spurred my memory on that movie. Jeffrey Jones was a really scary guy, and apparently in real life he was really creepy as well. Yeah. But The Devil's Advocate, if you haven't seen it, it is the penultimate movie about attorneys. And Al Pacino plays Satan, who is an attorney. But then I repeat myself. Except for my attorney, I have a recent wonderful experience with an attorney, but mostly, yeah, mostly.
Yet another oxymoron.
Yeah, I know, really.
Hey, back to the phones real quick here. 4 minutes in front of the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning.
Yes,
bird.
Alfred
Oh, yeah, with Timmy
Hitchcock.
Hedren.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to personally get to know Tippi Hedren, been in her home, and she does not have a lot of nice things to say about Alfred Hitchcock. It was interesting, though, being in her home. Melanie Griffith is her daughter,
Right.
and seeing pictures of Melanie and Antonio Banderas hanging on the walls and stuff was kind of fun. But she's a
Yeah.
very neat lady. Runs an operation now called Shambhala,
Mm-hmm.
just north of LA, where last I checked she had over 65 lions and tigers,
Right.
and that have been rescued from people that shouldn't have had them to begin with and stuff. And they've worked with big cats for a long time, and it's a pretty amazing place, especially. We went to we had to go pick her up, and we all were going to this wonderful event at the Bangladesh consulate in LA, and afterwards drove back up to Shambhala again, and she invited us in for coffee and chocolates, and we sat there and visited for quite a while. But she had a lot of very interesting stories to share about.
Well, and if
Alfred.
you think of Alfred, I mean, yeah, he was a genius, he did amazing films, but yeah, he was a creep. And just like Roman Polanski was a creep.
Mhm.
But Roman Polanski did Rosemary's Baby, which is one of the scariest movies
There's another
ever
scary
made.
one, yeah.
Ever
Rosemary's
made.
Baby, that is a
Really.
weird one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for bringing that. I do remember though, the color's right. As a kid, the birds really freaked me out.
Yeah.
And now down in Tono Basin, cowbirds down there, they come in huge flocks. And it kind of looks like something right out of a Hitchcock movie. It's kind of cool. Anyway,
Yeah.
so any other movies that got to you, Craig?
Birds never did anything for me.
Yeah, really?
I just thought it was dumb.
There's a droppings joke there somewhere. Yeah. And Hitchcock, any of his movies that ever really got to you? I mean, that's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You're kind of a young
Psycho.
Psycho,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
was he overrated? Maybe. I don't know.
He was
I
overweight.
guess I'm not a big Hitchcock fan, I
Yeah.
guess.
I like North by Northwest.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I was
There
gonna
you
say,
go.
that's one of my favorites, yeah.
That was a good.
And
one.
also, To Catch a Thief
Mm-hmm.
with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly, wonderful Grace Kelly, which was made in Monaco, and that's where she fell in love with Prince Albert.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and then he was canned after that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. And these one-liners just don't get any better than it's terrible. Hey, we're just about out of time. I want to reiterate, though, that, again, you can always find out what's playing and when it's playing by logging on to sawmilltheaters.com. But don't forget, starting today, Onward, that great animated flick rated PG, plays at 1, 4, and 7, the 4 o'clock showing in 3D. And also, the other movie starting today, Fantasy Island, rated PG-13, and Greg says he wants to see this at least 6 or 7 times himself. So get on down there, and maybe it might just be you and Craig. Who knows?
Get your evil twin to watch it,
Go-
right?
You go watch The Invisible Man and then watch
Yeah.
Fantasy Island and get,
Okay, weigh it out.
Both sides.
There you go, yeah, good
Gotta love
choice,
it.
good choice.
And
But
well,
see The Invisible Man, definitely.
well,
so
so
good.
strong.
You may see me there
Accolades.
again, but if you see me there and I'm by myself, offer help. Because there's moments in there that I had to look away.
Wow, interesting. Hey, Rim Country Forum has been brought to you this morning by the Dana Law Group, Sunshine Cleaning and Restoration, Hospitality Wireless, Damn Good Flooring, Anytime Fitness, Choice Auto and Truck, and Holiday Cruises and Tours. You're listening to Rim Country Radio, KMOG Payson. It's 10 o'clock, 56 degrees, time for top of the hour news headlines. Also, your 7-day weather forecast coming up.